Okay, listen. Breaking right now, and I mean literally as we speak, the music industry is in absolute chaos. Kendrick Lamar, the man who just casually dropped GNX out of nowhere, sold out stadiums in minutes, and reminded everyone who runs this game, yeah, he's not done. Not even close. According to sources, and we're talking industry insiders, people who've seen the schedules, people who know what's coming, Kendrick is allegedly preparing something for 2026 that's so massive, so strategically ruthless, that a major Hollywood studio has already been forced to delay a multi-million-dollar film. A movie delayed because Kendrick might go on tour. Let that sink in for a second. And here's where it gets absolutely insane. Word on the street is, Kendrick didn't just make GNX. He allegedly recorded somewhere between 80 to 100 songs. 100! And only gave us 12. The rest still sitting in the vault, locked, loaded, ready to detonate whenever he decides. Child, this isn't an album rollout. This is a hostile takeover. But before we dive into this madness, and trust me, it gets way deeper, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel because the industry does not want this conversation happening right now. And y'all know how it is. The algorithm buries the truth unless we push it to the top. So let's get into it. Here's what I'm about to prove to you over the next 30-something minutes. Kendrick Lamar has been quietly, methodically orchestrating the most calculated, most ruthless domination strategy in modern hip-hop history. And 2026, that's not a comeback. That's the execution phase. While everyone else has been chasing viral moments, begging for streams, dropping mid-albums every 6 months just to stay relevant, Kendrick has been playing chess. And he's been playing it since 2022. GNX wasn't the plan. It was the warning shot. The real bomb? It's coming. And allegedly, the industry is terrified. Now look, I already know there's going to be people in the comments, the usual suspects, saying I'm exaggerating, saying this is clickbait, saying Kendrick is just doing what every artist does. And to those people, I say, keep that same energy when 2026 hits. Slight smirk, because if you've been paying attention, and I mean really paying attention, you've seen the signs, the silence, the strategy, the control. This man doesn't move unless it's intentional. So if you're someone who actually wants to understand what's happening behind the curtain, who wants to see how power moves actually work in this industry, you're in the right place. Hit that subscribe button again. Share this video because trust me, they don't want this getting out. Lean in, conspiratorial. All right, so let's set the stage, settle in time. Over the past 3 years, from Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers in 2022, through the total obliteration of Drake in 2024, and the shock drop of GNX in November, Kendrick has been operating on a level that most artists can't even comprehend. And here's the thing people keep missing. Every single move has been building towards something bigger. Mr. Morale was introspective, heavy, intentionally alienating to casual fans. It wasn't designed to be a commercial smash. It was designed to reset expectations, to make people forget he owes them anything. Knowing pause. Then he went silent for a year and a half. While everyone else was dropping, begging for attention, Kendrick just vanished. And then the Drake situation. Slight laugh. I'm not even going to rehash all of it because we all lived through it, but let's be honest. Not Like Us didn't just end a beef, it became a cultural reset. Performed at the Super Bowl, played at every function, turned into a movement. That wasn't luck, that was strategy. And then just when people thought he'd ride that wave, drop a Victory Lamp album, do the predictable thing, he waits, goes silent again, and then drops GNX with zero warning on a random Friday in November. No rollout, no interviews, no features. Just here's the album. Take it or leave it. And what happened? Sold out arenas in under 10 minutes. charted every single track, reminded the entire world that he doesn't need permission, doesn't need hype, doesn't need anything except the music. But here's where it gets interesting. Shift in tone, more serious. Because while everyone was celebrating GNX, while fans were dissecting every bar, while critics were writing the think pieces, behind the scenes, something else was happening. Paramount Pictures, one of the biggest studios in Hollywood, was allegedly having internal meetings about their 2026 release calendar. And according to sources close to the situation, they've had to reschedule a major film. Why? Because Kendrick Lamar's touring plans are so massive, so all-consuming, that the studio couldn't risk the overlap. Let me say that again. Slow, deliberate. A Hollywood studio is rearranging multi-million-dollar productions because of a rapper's tour schedule. That's not normal. That's not how this works. That's power. And it's a sign of what's coming. So let's talk about what we actually know, because there is two big pieces of evidence here that paint a very clear picture. Lean in. First, the vault. Pause for effect. According to multiple reports, and we're talking sources with direct knowledge of Kendrick's recording sessions, GNX was pulled from a collection of 80 to 100 songs that were recorded over the past 2 years. 80 to 100 songs, and he gave us 12. Let that sit. Now, there is two ways to interpret this, and honestly, both of them are terrifying if you're a competing artist. Twist of interpretation. Interpretation one is Kendrick is sitting on enough material to drop multiple albums without recording another bar, which means he could theoretically control the release calendar for the next 2, 3, maybe even 4 years. Just drop whenever he wants. No warning, no competition, just domination. Or interpretation two, and this is the one that makes more sense to me, is he's curating. He's picking the perfect 12 songs for each moment, which means every other project, every surprise drop, every deluxe edition, every, oh, by the way, here's more music moment is going to be just as lethal as DNX. Either way, the man is playing with a loaded weapon, and everyone else is out here with water guns. Slight laugh. I mean, think about it. Most artists today are scrambling. They're dropping loosies to stay relevant. They're hopping on features. They're doing TikTok challenges. They're begging for streams. And Kendrick is just sitting on a century of music, just chilling. Pause. Waiting. That's not an artist. That's a general. And 2026 is when he deploys the troops. But here's the second piece of evidence, and this one's even crazier. Shifting down, more intense. The Paramount situation. Pause. Now, we don't have official confirmation on which film got delayed. The studio's keeping that under wraps, obviously. But sources are saying it's tied to Kendrick's involvement in an upcoming project that he has full creative control over. And when I say full creative control, I mean full. Script approval, final cut, casting, timeline, everything.
Only a handful of executives have even seen the project. The secrecy around it is so tight that people inside Paramount are reportedly calling it the Kendrick situation. Not the film, not the project, the situation. And here's where it gets messy. Kendrick has allegedly made it clear that his music comes first. Touring comes first. If there's a conflict between the Hollywood obligations and the music wins every time. Which means Paramount, a studio that's used to controlling schedules, controlling narratives, controlling talent, is sitting there, powerless, waiting for Kendrick to tell them when he's ready. That's insane. That's a level of leverage that artists just don't have, especially not in Hollywood. But Kendrick does, and he's using it. So here's what we're looking at. A man with 80-plus songs in the vault, a touring strategy so dominant that studios are rescheduling films, and complete creative control over a Hollywood project that nobody's allowed to talk about. Oh, and by the way, GNX just proved he can sell out stadiums without blinking, without a rollout, without anything except his name. This isn't a comeback. This is a siege. And 2026 is when the walls come down. Now, before we go deeper, because trust me, we're about to get into the really wild stuff, let's just take a moment to appreciate the audacity of all this. Because here's the thing, we've seen artists try to do the control the industry thing before. We've seen people try to move in silence, drop surprise albums, dominate the conversation. But nobody, and I mean nobody, has done it with this level of precision. Jay-Z tried it with Tidal exclusives. Didn't work. Beyoncé did it with Lemonade, and it was legendary, but even she had to eventually play the game. Drake does it with care packages and playlists, but he's still chasing streams, still dropping every 6 months, still feeding the algorithm. Kendrick, he starves it. He makes you wait. He makes you beg. And then when he finally drops, it's so good, so complete, so undeniable that you forget you were ever mad. That's power. Real power. And it's why 2026 is about to be a bloodbath. So let's talk about the blueprint, because what Kendrick is allegedly doing isn't new. It's just never been applied to hip-hop like this. Over the past few years, we've seen a major shift in how the biggest artists in the world operate, and it all comes down to one word: control. Taylor Swift basically invented the modern era-based touring model. Eras Tour, multi-year, same production. New music gets added as it drops. Fans come back multiple times. Billions of dollars in revenue. Total control over the experience, the set list, the narrative. The Weeknd did something similar with After Hours Till Dawn. 2 albums, 1 massive tour. He controlled the rollout, controlled the visuals, controlled the story, and it made him one of the highest grossing touring artists of all time. Bad Bunny's been doing it in Latin music. Same thing. Multi-year dominance, surprise drops, festival headlining, stadium shelling. No interviews, no American award shows, just music and power. And now, Kendrick is allegedly taking that same blueprint and applying it to hip-hop. Here's how it works. You don't drop an album and then tour it for 3 months and disappear. That's the old model. That's how you end up irrelevant by the time the next cycle starts. No, what you do is this. You drop an album, tour it. But during the tour, you drop more music, surprise songs, deluxe editions, visual albums, whatever. You keep the conversation going. You keep mans coming back. You turn the tour into a living, evolving experience that people can't predict. And while you're doing that, you're controlling the release calendar. Because if you are touring for 2 years and dropping music sporadically, nobody else can compete. You're everywhere, all the time, without ever feeling overexposed. That's what Taylor did. That's what The Weeknd did. And that's allegedly what Kendrick is about to do. And here's the kicker. He has the music to do it. If the 80 to 100 song vault is real, and multiple sources are saying it is, then Kendrick can drop GNX, tour it for 6 months, and in the middle of the tour, drop a deluxe, or a chapter 2, or a whole new project. And then tour that. Same stages, same cities, new music, new tickets, new money. Maximum efficiency, maximum control, and zero mercy for anyone trying to compete. I mean, just imagine. You're a rapper. You've been working on your album for 2 years. You finally get a release date. You're excited. You've got the features, the rollout, the budget. Everything's ready. And then Kendrick drops a surprise deluxe in the middle of your release week. You're done. You're just done. Doesn't matter how good your album is. Doesn't matter how much money the label spent. You're invisible. That's the level of control we're talking about. That's the weapon he allegedly built. But wait, there's more. Because it's not just about music. It's not just about touring.
This whole thing is connected to the Hollywood project, and as where things get really interesting. According to insiders, Kendrick's Paramount project isn't just some random movie. It's reportedly a cornerstone release for the studio's 2026 slate. Big budget, big expectations, the kind of film that's supposed to anchor a quarter. But here's the problem. Kendrick allegedly won't commit to a timeline. Because if the tour's happening, the tour takes priority. And the studio just has to wait. Now, why would Paramount agree to that? Why would a major studio give a rapper, no matter how successful, that much power? Two reasons. One, Kendrick is box office, not just musically, culturally. If he's attached to a project, it gets attention, it gets credibility, it gets the audience that Hollywood desperately needs right now. And two, they don't have a choice. Because if Kendrick walks, the project falls apart, and Paramount's already invested. They're pot committed, as they say in poker. So they wait, and they adjust, and they panic quietly behind closed doors. And that's exactly what's happening. Sources say the film was originally supposed to drop in spring 2026, but now it's been quietly pushed. No official announcement, no press release, just moved. And the whispers inside the studio are all the same. We're waiting on Kendrick. That's power. That's leverage. That's what happens when you stop playing by their rules and make them play by yours. And here's the thing that nobody wants to say out loud. If Kendrick can do this to Paramount, a studio that's been around for a century, a studio that survived every era of Hollywood, what do you think he's gonna do to the music industry? Child, it's over. Labels, artists, executives, they're off playing checkers, and Kendrick been playing 4D chess this whole time.
First, the vault. Multiple producers who've worked with Kendrick have hinted at the sheer volume of material he's been sitting on. In a recent interview, and I'm paraphrasing here because the exact quote is hard to pin down, one producer said something like, Kendrick records like he's writing a novel. He'll do 30, 40 versions of a song, and then he picks one. The rest just sit there. That's not unusual for Kendrick. He's always been a perfectionist. But what is unusual is the reports that he specifically recorded for GNX, and the sessions yielded 80 to 100 completed tracks. Not demos, not ideas, finished songs. Now, we don't have a direct quote from Kendrick or his team confirming that number, but multiple sources, journalists, industry insiders, people adjacent to TDE and PG Lang, have all said some version of the same thing. And when that many people are saying it, independently without coordination, there's usually smoke. And where there's smoke, second, the Paramount situation, shift tone. This one's trickier. Because studios are very protective about this kind of information. They don't want to look like they're losing control. They don't want other talent to know they're bending the rules. But according to entertainment trade reports, the kind that cover Hollywood scheduling, not just music, there's been unusual activity around Paramount's 2026 slate. One report, dated mid-November, mentioned that a high-profile project had been moved from Q2 to Q4 due to creative scheduling conflicts. Now, they didn't name Kendrick, but when you cross-reference that with reports about Kendrick's Hollywood deal, the timeline, and the fact that he's allegedly touring in summer 2026, the piece is fed. It's not confirmed, but it's compelling. And here's the other thing. Lean in. Industry people have been very careful not to directly address this. When asked about Kendrick's Hollywood plans, representatives have said things like, "We don't comment on projects in development," or "schedules are subject to change." That's Hollywood speak for, "Yes, but we're not saying yes." Knowing smile. Third, the touring strategy. Shift back to music. GNX just proved Kendrick can sell out stadiums with zero rollout. We saw it happen in real time. Announced the tour, sold out in minutes. Crashed Ticketmaster, the whole thing. But sources are now saying that was just the first leg, that there are talks about extending into 2026, possibly internationally, possibly with new music added to the set list midway through. Again, nothing official, but if you look at how Taylor Swift and The Weeknd structured their multi-year tours, the blueprint is right there. And Kendrick's team has been studying those models. So when you add it all up, the vault, the Hollywood leverage, the touring strategy, what you get is a picture of an artist who's not just dropping an album. He's building a dynasty. And 2026 is the coronation. So let's zoom out for a second and talk about why this is all possible. Because this doesn't happen in a vacuum. Thoughtful tone. Kendrick has something that most artists don't have. Institutional support without institutional control. What do I mean by that? He's got the backing of major players, Interscope, PG Lang, partnerships with Live Nation, relationships with Paramount, but he's not beholden to them. He's not trapped in a 360 deal. He's not at the mercy of label executives who want him to drop every year. He built his leverage slowly, over a decade, by being undeniable, by making music so good that the industry had no choice but to meet his terms. And now, he's reaping the rewards of that patience. But there is another factor. The culture has shifted. Shift gears. 10 years ago, surprise drops didn't work. Beyoncé basically invented the model in 2013, and even then people thought it was a one-time thing. But now, in 2024, going into 2025, 2026, the audience is trained for it. We expect chaos. We expect disruption. We expect artists to break the rules. And that's the environment Kendrick is thriving in. Because he's not fighting against the system, he's using the system's own evolution against. The industry wanted streaming. Kendrick mastered it without compromising quality. The industry wanted surprise drops. Kendrick perfected them. The industry wanted touring to be the main revenue source. Kendrick built a model that turns tours into multi-year cultural events. He's not a rebel. He's a strategist. Pause. And that's what makes him so dangerous. There's also the enabling circle. Shift slightly. Kendrick's team, Dave Free, his management, PG Lang, they're all aligned. There's no infighting, no leaks, no chaos behind the scenes. That kind of unity is rare. Most artists are dealing with managers who want one thing, labels who want another, family who want something else. It's a mess. But Kendrick's operation is tight, and that allows him to move with precision. So when we talk about how this is happening, it's not magic. It's structure. It's loyalty, it's years of careful relationship building, and ruthless execution. All right, let's bring this all together. Final stretch, big energy. Here's what we know, or what we're reasonably confident about based on insider reports in industry patterns. Kendrick Lamar has allegedly recorded 80 to 100 zogs. Only 12 made it on the GNX. The rest are sitting in the vault ready to deploy. He has full creative control over a major Paramount film project to the point where the studio has reportedly adjusted their 2026 release calendar to accommodate its schedule. He's planning a multi-year touring strategy that mirrors the models used by Taylor Swift and The Weeknd. Maximum revenue, maximum control, and the ability to drop new music during the tour to keep it fresh. And he's doing all of this with zero press, zero interviews, zero traditional rollout. Just pure, undeniable work. What does that add up to? A 2026 that could see Kendrick Lamar dominating music, film, and live performance simultaneously. A year where he's everywhere but never overexposed. A year where competing with him is basically impossible. And the crazy part about it, pause, lean in. He's been planning this since 2022, since Mr. Morale, since the moment he decided to step back and let everyone else scramble. While they were chasing trends, he was building the future. This isn't an album cycle. This isn't a comeback. This is a systematic takeover of the entire culture, music, film, touring, influence, power.
And if the reports are true, if even half of what we've talked about is accurate, then 2026 is going to be remembered as the year Kendrick Lamar became untouchable. Because here's the irony, and this is what kills me. Slight laugh. Everyone's been waiting for Kendrick to fall off, to lose his edge, to drop something mid, to prove that he's a human. And instead, he's out here playing 4D chess, moving in silence, and building the most dominant artistic empire in modern hip-hop. The man really said, "Y'all thought it was done? Nah, I was just getting started." And honestly, I believe him. So yeah, that's where we're at. Exhale. Kendrick Lamar, 80 to 100 songs in the vault, a Hollywood studio rearranging their calendar, a touring strategy designed for multi-year dominance, and a complete refusal to play by anyone's rules but his own. What does that add up to? If you're a fan, this is the most exciting thing you could possibly hear. If you're a competitor, honestly, I don't know what you do. Because how do you fight this? You can't out-quality him. You can't out-strategize him. You can't out-weight him because he's got kids of material ready to go. You just hope he has mercy. Slight laugh. And based on the past few years, I don't think mercy is on the menu. But here's what I want to know from y'all, direct address. Do you think this is real? Do you think Kendrick is really sitting on 100 songs? Do you think 2026 is going to be the takeover everyone's predicting? Or do you think this is all just industry hype and he's going to drop one album and chill like every other artist? Because personally, I think it's real. I think the signs are there. I think the strategy is too specific, too well documented by too many sources to be fake. But I want to hear from y'all. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me if I'm reaching or if you see what I see. And while you're down there, make sure you hit that like button. Seriously, the algorithm is brutal right now, and the only way this video gets seen is if y'all push it to the top. Subscribe if you haven't already, because trust me, if this 2026 situation unfolds the way I think it's gonna unfold, we're gonna have a lot to talk about over the next year and a half. Also hit the notification bell because I'm planning deep dives on the Paramount project, the vault, the touring strategy, all of it. This is just the beginning. And if you've made it this far, comment GNX, so I know you're really locked in. Smile. Because this was a long one, and I appreciate y'all sticking with me. Next video, we're going to break down the specific tracks from GNX that hint at what's next. Because if you listen closely, Kendrick's been telling us what's next. We just weren't paying attention. All right, loves, that's all I got for today. Thank you for watching. Stay curious, stay critical, and remember, Kendrick is not just making music. He's making history. I'll catch y'all in the next one. Music fades in.